Determining an associate's pay scale can be one of the more challenging decisions a law firm owner has to make, and if they get it wrong, oftentimes it affects the direction of their firm. Yes, it's that crucial to make sure we get compensation nailed correctly. Hi, I'm Richard James, and I've worked with over 1,000 law firm owners just like you for the past 15 plus years. And I can tell you, after working in multiple different practice areas with law firm owners, one of the most common questions I receive is, how much should I pay my associate attorney? Now, this question oftentimes comes when either A, the law firm owner is trying to grow in their level one law firm ownership and still maintain the ceiling of that kind of $1 million, $1.2 million, depending on practice area, and keep it small, keep it all, get home in time for dinner, have your weekends, take your vacations, and still build a wildly profitable law firm, but you don't want to go to the CEO level. Those folks need to hire another associate. Or we have the level 2 law firm owner trying to replace themselves, and maybe they're hiring one of their first associates because they can't grow the team, and they're in what we call law firm ownership hell. Like, they do their legal work all during the day, and then they go home at night and they do payroll and admin and answer emails, and they never take vacations, they never have time off, and they are just stressed all the time. That's law firm ownership hell. The good news is you can get out of law firm ownership hell as fast as possible. The bad news is you're going to have to pass through it if you want to get to the next level, which is the CEO level. If you're at the investor level, you want to make sure you have enough attorneys to maintain capacity and you're doing it efficiently so that you can maximize profitability, so that your return on investment from your original firm that you built at the investor level is now paying off in dividends. So it really depends on, are we charging flat fee? Are we charging hourly? Are we charging contingency? Are we charging some combination in between in our firm? And then we have to ask, what level law firm owner are you? That's super important. And then we have to ask this overall experience level. So passing through this kind of matrix of decision-making processes, this is how I diagnose how we're going to compensate these folks. There's a difference. So if I've got a flat fee firm, I want us to take vanilla cases more than hamburger cases, meaning the easy cases more than the complicated cases. Complicated cases in a flat fee world oftentimes don't work because if I didn't price it properly, if I didn't come up with a new flat fee for that case type, probably my margins have gone down because I've got more hours into that case than I should have. And if I do have to get customized pricing, now I've really complicated the sales prices. So I really want to develop a flat fee practice that takes on the basic vanilla cases as often as possible until we perfect our systems. Hey, if you'd like more information about other topics that focus on the systems in your law firm, go ahead and visit thelawfirmsecret.com. And we can start to take the next step, and you can learn more about how we see running a law firm built by systems. When I first started working in a law firm, I worked with a fellow who taught law firms some marketing stuff, and his business was broken. He hired me to fix his business. I fixed his business, and then I started teaching from stage these principles that I had learned through my business career. One guy saw me teach and said, hey, how would you like to prove this stuff really works in a law firm? And so that's what we did. And we grew that law firm from 2 guys sharing a desk to $3.5 million in a couple of years. Great story. Most important part of that story is the law firm owner was able to not have to take work nights and weekends, and he was able to take his first month-long vacation within the first 12 months of us opening the firm, and so on and so forth. But suffice it to say that we had to figure out how to hire associates. Now, in that bankruptcy and tax resolution, both of those situations, yeah, if we got hamburger cases, we could charge more, but really 80 to 90% of the cases we wanted were more vanilla cases. And so I just needed an associate that could manage the work of a Chapter 7 case. Meet with a client to make sure that they got all their legal questions answered after the client retained the firm, review the petition, and be there for the signing appointment, show up to the 341, and then handle whatever post-341 work might take place for outlier situations. And that's all I wanted them to do. I didn't want them to have to communicate with clients at all. I never wanted them in the sales process. I didn't have them do any admin stuff. Their emails should almost have been zeroed out completely. All they should have been doing was legal work all day long. And because of that, I was able to get bankruptcy attorneys with 1, 2, 3 years experience, sometimes even no experience, bring them in, teach them what we needed them to know to do, and pay them $40,000, $45,000, $50,000 a year. So that's like a flat fee example. Well, what about an hourly example? For the most part, family law firms are about 30 hours in a case. When we're building a compensation plan for this attorney, we have to take all this into consideration. You want to think about the rate that you're billing at. You want to think about the hours you expect them to bill every single month. We call this the realization rate. That's the collection rate. So that's how much of the dollar you bill, how much of that do you actually receive in payment. And then you have to think about experience and what is their workflow, right? And then, as I said, you have to pass this through the filter. Are you a level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 law firm owner? If you're a level 1 law firm owner and you need this associate to do a bunch of other things besides just the legal work, you're going to have to take that in consideration when you're building their compensation. You need to know what your market rate is in your area. I would look at paying them a percentage of what we realized. So if we realized $1,000, they would get a percentage of that $1,000. And that percentage typically was 27 to 33%. And I will tell you that I like to use that as a baseline when I'm dealing with hourly billing associates, okay? 27 to 33%. Why is this so important? Well, because it lets you understand if you're on track or off track, if you're overcompensating somebody. I have met firms doing multiple 7 figures and they have a salaries to wages component that's eating up 60% of their gross revenues. That means that you're 15% over where you should be. So I want you to be maxing out at 45% of gross revenues to salaries in your P&L. And if you're not, well, you've got a real problem. You're not gonna be able to grow profitably, which is what happens to law firms all the time. So this earmark for an hourly billing firm is this 27 to 33%. But rate affects that. So if I've got an attorney that's billing out at $1,000 or $1,200 or $1,300, I don't necessarily have to pay them 27 to 33% to make them happy, especially if I want them to bill 150 hours a month. That's 1,800 hours a year. At $1,000 an hour, that's $1.8 million a year in annual billings. And you sent them all that business. They're not expecting necessarily to realize, $600,000 in compensation. My experience is if they're making 3 to 4, they're usually very, very happy. That's usually about where they're going to be offered, somewhere in that $300,000 to $400,000 range. And they don't think about higher than that until they get to partnership level. But if you're in a family law firm that bills out at, let's say, $400 an hour, and you expect them to bill 120 hours a month or 1,400 hours a year, $400 an hour, that's $600,000 a year. Now, here's the problem. When we just use a percentage and we don't use a salary of some sort, what happens is the associate ends up with up and down income cycles, right? So 1 month they make a lot, 1 month they make less. The other thing that happens is that the attorney is now compensated based off of your firm's ability to collect. And if your firm is lousy at collecting and you pay an attorney based on how much was collected, and you should never pay them on how much was billed, you should always pay them how much is collected. But if you pay them on how much is collected and your firm sucks at collecting money because you just have a lousy system in your collection system or your AR system, well, now that attorney is being punished for something they didn't do. And so their compensation is directly affected. So they're not going to like that. To make this down and simple, for hourly, we should identify the market-based range based on the experience level that you need. So if that's $120,000 for that market-based person for that experience level, fine. If I know that I'm gonna have them bill out 120 hours a month, and I know I'm gonna bill out at $400 an hour, then I know I'm gonna generate $600,000 in at least invoices. 30% of 600,000 is 180,000, right? And so I know that if market is this, I can make sure I make an offer to them that's like a little bit over market. So I would make an offer to an associate attorney with that experience, and I'd probably offer them 125, right? And I would then add a bonus, and I would do that quarterly, and I would have the bonus kind of be contingent on them hitting their billable hours, right? Because that's really the one thing they can control. And then I'm going to get their bonus to get them to another maybe $20,000, and I'm going to get them to be able to earn $145. Now, if market-based wage for that job is $120, and I can show them clearly how they're going to get more than market base at their base salary, and bonus takes them to 145, and I know that's going to take us under our 30%. Now what happens is we can grow. I can raise their hourly rate. I can have them bill more hours, and I can make sure that the firm earns more without having to constantly give up this percentage. And so my margin grows as the firm is able to get better at charging per hour, get better at the realization rate, and get better at making sure that the attorney bills more hours. And I can always make this bonus juicier if they bill more hours, and I have some room to play so they can actually make more money than this. This way they're well compensated, okay? So now we're overcompensating them, we're giving them consistency, so now they get a consistent earning cycle, right? Not up and down. They're getting a consistent earning cycle over the year, and that makes them happy, and they can feel like they're paid more than their peers. That makes them happy. And they know that they can make bonus, so it's going to inspire them to hit their goal. That makes them happy. All of this is a system that works together. That's how I would build out an hourly compensation plan. Now, there's a caveat to this. If you have to hire somebody with an experience level that's extremely high, that means that you need to pay them, well, let's say closer to $250,000. And it's not because your firm bills out $1,000 an hour. It's because you want to replace you. And you're going to have to pay that person $250,000 a year to do that. Well, you're still going to have to build out this compensation plan the same way. Now, one thing I want you to know about this is if you don't build out a compensation plan similar to this that makes them feel good about what they're getting, chances are pretty good. It's just a matter of time before that high-level associate ends up going out on their own. As you grow and you get to the CEO level, you're going to need a managing attorney who's also going to do some hourly billing and going to manage all the other associates. Okay, a warning for you around contingency. You don't want to run a contingency practice and have a percentage-based compensation for your associates. You're going to want to use the market-based wage strategy. So you're going to find what the market-based wage is for the associates in your geographic area, for the type of practice area that you're in, and you're going to want to build a structure where they're going to be compensated at that market-based wage plus bonus, and you're going to set up some very specific particulars about how many cases they have to work. Once compensation is out of the way, the number one way for you to keep your associate is to have them do as little non-attorney work as possible. You really only want them doing things that require a bar card. Now that might require a carburetor adjustment in your thinking. You might need to rethink exactly what work an associate in your firm actually needs to do. You might think work needs to be done by an attorney, and the reality is it can be done by a non-attorney. A lot more work can be done by a non-attorney than you think you can. You should remove all of the work that can be done by somebody else. Client success, returning phone calls, even managing inbound emails, getting commonly asked questions answered, and have the attorney just do the things that require a bar card. Sure, some of this is practice area specific, but I will tell you, if you want a happy associate, build a system that doesn't have them doing a bunch of stuff they didn't go to law school for. That will make them happy. You should be prepared for your associates to turn over. Some of them will stay with you. But the reality is you're going to have a ceiling of which you can actually pay those associates to maintain your profitability. There's a ceiling to how much you can charge. Now, you're going to have a ceiling as to how much you can pay that associate. And so because of that, you're going to have turnover in that role. And you should just go into it expecting that. Now, they might stay with you a year, 2 years, 5 years, I don't know. But as the attorney who's in a flat fee world starts to hit the ceiling, now is the time they come knocking on your door and asking to be partner. And that's the time it's to tell them, you know what? We're going to need to find your replacement. Why don't you go out and start looking for another job? It's better to find a job while you have a job, and I'll support you in this, but you're at the top of the compensation plan. You're super talented. You should go somewhere else and earn more, but being here is not where you'll want to be. Just do me a favor. I'll help you along this line. Just help me train the next person coming in, and we'll walk this together. Like that conversation needs to happen. If you start overcompensating your flat fee attorneys, what you're going to find is that your margins are going to dip. And when your margins dip in a flat fee world, there's not a lot of other places to make it up if you're making yourself efficient in all the areas that we talk about in other training courses along the line, okay? Hope you found this helpful. If you have questions, you can comment or you can ask the questions in the comments. You can like or subscribe. Again, let's go ahead and build your law firm better, one associate's compensation at a time. Hey, if you'd like more information about this topic and other topics that focus on the systems in your law firm, go ahead and visit thelawfirmsecret.com, and we can share with you our community and ways that you can connect with us absolutely free, no commitment, and we can start to take the next step and you can learn more about how we see running a law firm built by systems.